Good morning, everyone, and thank you. We are delighted to have you at this webinar this morning. If you're in Japan, we wish you a very good afternoon, and for wherever you are around the world, we want to greet you from this platform that we are hosting today, which is a platform that we are very proud of hosting together with the JICA Ogata Research Institute for Peace and Development, as well as the African Union Development Agency Policy Bridge Tank program at the AUDA-NEPAD. We are very proud to host this on a particular topic of perception of risks and approaches to doing business in Africa, the case of Japan companies. My name is Pamela Gopal, and I am the head of the Policy Bridge Tank program at the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD. I am normally based in Johannesburg, South Africa, but this morning I'm joining you from Yaoundé in Cameroon, and we are very, very excited about this topic, which is very relevant for Africa's economic growth, on how we partner with our development partners, and how we cooperate strategically globally as well on development issues. So addressing this topic today provides a support to addressing challenges that we have in the African continent, specifically on public sector intervention. And by dealing with the funding gaps, JICA sees the development of private enterprises in developing countries and improve their and would like to partner with the African countries to improve their competitiveness, to promote innovation, as well as increase investment and industry, and to ensure sustainable and quality growth and development. JICA also aims to achieve economic resilience for both developing countries and Japan through enhanced collaboration and partnership between local and Japanese companies. The African Union, on the other hand, is, as you know, we are the implementation arm of the AU, the African Union, and its Agenda 2063 development strategy, and fully complying with the second 10-year implementation plan. And this fully supports the promotion of policies for a competitive private sector-led growth. The AUDA, NEPAD, and JICA have been collaborating closely with each other since 2014, where we have a memorandum of cooperation, and we have multiple joint programs that we work together with. And this platform also, we have brought many various topics of webinars so that we can have this robust knowledge exchange with one another. So with that, I would just want to thank you again for joining. Today, just to give you an overview, we have a presentation, and the presentation will be from our distinguished participant of the JICA Ogata Research Institute, representing the JICA Ogata Research Institute, Ms. Olga Tomako, who is a consultant from the Asia-Africa Investment and Consulting in Japan. She will be joining us from Tanzania again, and I would like to apologize if she's having any experiences with the internet. We thank you for your patience in that regard. Now, followed by that presentation, we have two discussants. One is Suzuki Momoko, and Suzuki is a chief representative from JICA Ghana office. And the second discussant we have is Ms. Rose Inguni, and she is the executive director of the Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, called KIPRA, situated in Nairobi, in Kenya. As you can see, we have participants from across Africa joining us, which amplifies the need for having to strengthen the private sector capabilities and investment in our continent. So with that brief introduction, I would like now to introduce or hand the floor to Ms. Olga Tomako. Or Ms. Olga Tomako, over to you. Thank you very much.
So, hi everyone, can you hear me? Thank you for joining or listening to this important topic today. I'm going to present perception of risks and approaches to doing business in Africa in the case of Japanese companies. There will be a time for questions at the end of the presentation. And I'm sorry today it's not good networking from Tanzania. Sorry, I tried to explain that this styles. So I will explain my experience and research findings in Rwanda and Tanzania and fully understand the landscape of most African countries, given my experience in Ethiopia and Uganda. So learning objects from the seminar are, first, how Japanese companies consider and progress their business to expand in African countries. Second, understand the field where you and our Nepal and other audience today can contribute on. And third, understanding tips that you can support Japanese companies to expand their business in Africa. Through this seminar's time, please find these hints and tips to contribute to your activities. The main idea about these topics is for Africa to move from aid independence to ownership dependent by partnering with foreign business investors, such as Japanese companies. Why? Because Japan is ready and available to invest as a support Africa in these changing times. In the official report of Japanese government is what African countries need now is business investment rather than support. African countries are referred as the greatest frontier of the 21st century. The reason why I say this is for two main reasons. First, increased awareness of the importance of expanding business in Africa among Japanese companies. One, growing market scale in Africa more than in Japan at the moment. Two, high speed of the innovation of tech that are witnessing in Africa. Three, Japanese companies value more ethical investment, meaning investments that benefit and contribute to the growth of societies, such as CSR and SDGs. The second reason is when we compare the investment funding in developing countries, the private capital has been much larger than the ODA fund in the world. This shows that companies around the world are attracted to African countries as new markets, not only to support developing countries. However, there are only a few Japanese companies that have managed to expand their business in Africa. As indicated in the green box, this content was from a study done by JETRO. And why? The reason is that there are many obstacles for Japanese companies to start new business in Africa. So I'll show you that reason next page. First, history, misunderstanding of Africa. Africa is a cradle of humanity with a very fertile and rich area. However, Africa had faced to outrageous slave trade in the age of exploration. Japanese, through the teachings in our schools, tend to think of Africa with the image of the from the later era of 17th century. Second, development economics, aid transition. Discrepancy between various support measures, development theories, and the field. It is called that this historical trend created dependency on aid. People in the world tend to think that we should help provide aid to Africa. Third, cognitive psychology, risk and negative African scheme. Distortion of African scheme, perception for Japanese people. Schema is a technical term in cognitive psychology, means existing knowledge and framework. Japan is an island country in Asia, as you know. Due to these geographic and cultural distances from Africa, Japanese people tend to hold old perception of Africa and miss the opportunity to update current status of African countries. Their perception of Africa is held from the era of 17th century up to now. And also, if Japanese companies understand African countries very well, Japanese companies will be better informed in order to expand their business in Africa. This slide speaks to the business administration aspect of doing business in Africa through the lens of corporate social and entrepreneurship, CSE. This is a concept of business, however, shouldn't be seen in isolation from the business viewpoint to the social impact. Although we learned from the conservative learnings that these aspects are separate, it is important to understand that business must include social and entrepreneurship dynamics. Now, I will address very quickly the research design. I set 2 research questions to explore factors for Japanese companies expanding their business in Africa as CSE business. RQ1, how do you recognize risks of doing your business in Africa? We need to identify the risk sensitivity. RQ2, how do you approach to the risks? We need to know how to countermeasure ways to avoid high risks. So I use CSE framework for researching this theme. I add 2 additional elements in CSE. One is risk in Africa. The other is revenue. I describe them in the diagram right. So I divided the companies into 2 groups. Group 1, Japanese companies that are planning to expand their business in Africa in the future. Group 2, Japanese companies that have been already expanding their business in Africa. The reason why I divided into 2 groups was that I wanted to reveal whether there are any common factors in those companies. I interviewed 3 companies of Group 1, Helican, G-Cube, Toradre, and Rocket Battery. For example, Rocket Battery. About the company, the establishment. Their core business is forklift truck battery. Business overview in Africa. Field, the charging station for electric bike as using solar panel. The target country is Rwanda. I show you the process briefly. Please check that the process box. The first step to start their business in Rwanda was at JICA 7. They attended to the event without any specific inspections. Specific intention. So they didn't have any business plan at that time. However, Mr. O, Rocket Battery's members, met Mr. A, who is a Rwandan, at the event, which made a big impact on Mr. O and the company's business planning. After Cut 7, Mr. O dedicated to go to Rwanda at first with bringing a test machine. This is the future of Rocket Battery Company. At first, going to directory. The company went to Africa country where they were to expand their business, are still in their eyes. This is very important fact that helps the business to happen, especially for Japanese companies. Then, they started to consider their business in Africa. They signed MOU a second trip. It took only 7 months for these companies to make a decision to expand their business in Africa. After that, they used UNOPS program and JICA's project. Then, let's look at the process more in detail. I noticed rocket battery has 2 key factors which facilitate the expansion of their business in Africa. One is that they assigned a promoter who was dedicated, passionate to expanding their business in Africa. In following the whole process, the promoter, Mr. O, played an important role. Please check yellow comment. This is Mr. O, the dedicated promoter's action. The other key factor is the support from the management team. Please check the gray box. The management team didn't disturb or prohibit the promoter's any action. They didn't support him, and they had urged to do it. An additional point is a reliable partner, Rwanda, Mr. A. Please check the person icon. At the interview, Mr. O told me that he was very impressed from Mr. A because Mr. A, the Rwandan, was serious and dedicated to serve his country, Rwanda, not focused on himself. Here is a summary of their answers of the research questions for Group 1. So RQ1, the 3 companies said that they didn't analyze the risk in detail because this was a just starting point. And RQ2, the ways of approach to the risks are a lot of comments. For example, field visited, talking directly to local people, and management philosophy, reliable local partners, and speed, and cooperation with public authorities. There are many comments. Next is the companies in Group 2, the plastic, Salaya, and Road. RQ1, they also don't care the risk in detail. And RQ2, the way of approach to the risks are, so for example, cooperate with public authorities, or internship programs, and sharing within the company's information, and management commitment, and external parties, CSR, public relations. So I found something common factors with Group 1 and 2. For example, of Group 2 is Salaya, who we can also learn some important points from the case. How they started expanding their business in Africa is that they involved in CSR with the UNICEF project. The CEO accepted the CSR program in Africa and considered it not only CSR, but also their future business because CEO decided to continue supporting in Africa. This company also didn't have any knowledge and experience about the African business by that time, but they tried to communicate to local people, institutions, embassy, JICA, and expanding their network. Promoter, Mr. Honjo, who didn't have experience in Africa at that time, contributed well. They are also training the local nurses and workers. They are now expanding their business in Africa. This is a summary slide. I summarize these movements of the 6 companies and draw a CSE framework from left side to right side. We will check briefly. So first, every companies had limited resources, especially human resource and information. Then they gathered primary information. Primary information, this first box, primary information makes negative African scheme reduce. Every 6 company visit to their field directory to get primary information in the early stage. Expanding their network step by step and get information and human resources. On the plus, what risks were makes clear, risks for their business reduced. At the same time, management team also committed the new African business for long term. Finally, they are expanding their business, monetize, and reach multi-layered value. This is a process of that Japanese company. So, I like to explain consideration of the research. There are 3 parts: discovered fact, logical implications, and practical implication. Especially, I show you mainly in discovered fact, because the part will be the hint to understand Japanese companies. There are the 5 interpretations. First, point of the organizational structure. Explore formulating and verifying an accurate business plan through a flexible organizational structure. Second, human resources and business structure. It's rare for Japanese companies to be able to align all necessary resources in-house, if necessary, procure the required skills. Third, assistance to correct negative African scheme. By obtaining local primary information for effect on the ground knowledge. Fourth, trust effect of public authority is high. The trust level effect of institution is more helpful. And finally, fifth, commitment from the management team is essential. A team approach from management to the teams creates efficient and transparent operations. This is a interpretation of discovered facts. So I pick up one of the 3. Third, assistance to collect negative African scheme. Local, primary, first-hand information and direct experience are most effective and the highest priority for Japanese companies. They assist Japanese companies to collect negative African scheme. The primary information is more important. So this is the final contents, my work in Tanzania. Through our experience at AIC, Asia Africa Investment and Consulting, we offer 3 main services: investment, strategic consultant, and management outsourcing. We have branches in Asia and Africa. So we have a group companies too. Next, please. One of the companies, group company Tanja, Tanzania and Japan, one is a coffee farm in Tanzania. We took over the ownership of the coffee farm and started managing a new farm in Tanzania since last year. The history of the farm is around 100 years. So this is a good coffee. A lot of workers contribute. Next, please. Yes, we had an opening ceremony last year. We invited local government and they welcomed our challenges. We have started to sell our goods on websites in Japan, coffee and macadamia nuts. And Tangier also has a lot of projects. We call them Smart Village Project. One of the Smart Village project is carbon neutral carbon credit. I'm also assigned each. So we plan to implement improved clean cookstoves to keep environment, reduce consuming firewood, and empower women. And last month, we held a stakeholder meeting in Tanzania. Over 100 people attended the meeting. This project is a just start point, and some Japanese companies are interested in our project as investors. So if you are interested in Tangier and Smart Village project, please visit our farm in Tanzania. So, and just to conclude, I share my experience in Rwanda with my colleagues. I supported some cooperative of female handcraft, found and made new business seeds, and finally lecture saving program as JICA's volunteer. On the other hand, I also taught karate. Karate is one of the very famous sports in Rwanda, and I have a black belt of karate. A lot of Rwanda wanted to learn karate, so I taught them besides on my activity. So not only my work activity, but also I also shared my experience on Japanese culture. It's also important, I think. This is a capital city, Kigali. And this is my hometown, Ruamagana Prefecture. So this is a start point for me in Africa. So finally, we are going to wrap up. At today's seminar, I shared 3 targets with you. First, how Japanese companies consider and progress their business to expand in African countries.
Great. Thank you so much, Ogatomako-san. Thank you very, very much for your presentation. I think it really, really demonstrated, and thank you for the work that you're doing on the ground. You have not only demonstrated what you've been doing, but you have shared your personal experiences and how you've also impacted the local community through your skills in transferring the talents to the local community that you're residing in. So thank you very much for that. You've also shown us today how the work that you have done in scanning the market, assessing the environment, and how this, has allowed Japanese companies to invest in Africa, specifically the coffee industry, and more importantly, how you have created sustainability in producing an online store, which we find our African goods now in Japan. So thank you very, very much for sharing that. And also the experiences from the ground gave us a first-hand opportunity to learn about the cultures, to understand the ecosystem, and often challenges can be better approached if jointly addressed, and by immersing yourself in the African continent, you are better able to inform. And certainly AUDA-NEPAD can take this knowledge dissemination and spread the word to private sector, share the experiences and best practices, and also make them tap into the ecosystem that you have allowed to, through your work, in making it conducive to invest and do business in Africa. So thank you very, very much for that presentation. I think I have certainly learned a lot and of value. Now we're going to be inviting the discussants to share their objectives of what you have presented. So firstly, I have the honor to please welcome Suzuki Moko-san on the floor to share her views on the presentation that has just been provided. Thank you so much, and over to you, Suzuki-san.
Thank you, Pamela-san, for the introduction. So I think I'll have my slide on the view. But first, I'd like to make my introduction. So currently, I am the Chief Representative of JICA Ghana office. I've been working in JICA for over 20 years now. But for the last decade, my field has been mostly in Africa and also in industry development. Actually, this is my second posting in Africa. The first one was in Ethiopia from 2006 to 2010. And then afterwards, I had privilege to work a lot in this African continent. After JICA Ethiopia office, I worked in the private sector development group of industrial development department, which I was in charge of Africa Kaizen initiative. This is an initiative to support or enhance the competitiveness of local MSMEs in Africa through utilizing an approach called Kaizen. This is approach for continuous improvement to achieve better quality and productivity. And the initiative, we are working together with AUDA-NEPAD. And then afterwards, I was in Africa Division 2, which I was in charge of 7 countries in Africa, which is Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, Djibouti, and then Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. So with my experience, I would like to comment to Ogo-san's presentation. So next slide, please. Yes, Ogo-san's presentation is, I think, very relevant to Africa and then to the Japanese companies or investments to Africa. Through the TICAD process, the government of Japan has been promoting more investment to Africa from Japan. But as she has mentioned, well, there has been mixed, I think, we can say that it was a mixed outcome. So I think more investment from Japan, we are seeing more investment from Japan, but not as much as we expected. But in Ghana has the third largest number of Japanese companies operating in Africa continent. We have 57 companies right now. So this number is, I think, after the South Africa and Kenya, which is the first and second largest number of Japanese companies. But Ghana's doing business ranking is actually 13th in the sub-Saharan region. Trading across borders or paying taxes, enforcing contracts, resolving insolvency issues are some areas where Ghana has room for, I think, improvement. But nevertheless, Ghana is one of the most popular countries in Africa where Japanese companies want to invest. So I was wondering, so I thought of the characteristics of Japanese corporations operating in Ghana. And I think there are 3 types of Japanese companies working in Ghana. The first one is the major trading companies. These trading companies have been in Ghana for quite some time. So they have a network within Ghana, and not only in Ghana, but they are actually kind of like a hub and operating from Ghana towards West African countries, or sometimes to Central and South African countries. So they are also working as a hub for operations in West to South Africa. And most of these companies are working in cocoa business or agriculture, and of course, natural resources. The second type is the manufacturing companies. Especially in Ghana, we have a lot of automobile industries right now. The Ghanaian government has successfully attracted the automobile industries such as Toyota, Suzuki, Nissan, Honda, and not only actually Japanese companies, but also other other foreign investors from Germany or from Korea or from China, etc. But currently now they are facing, all these automobile industries are facing some challenges because although they have established a manufacturing factory in Ghana, there are a lot more second-hand imported automobiles that are coming into Ghana that are much cheaper for the consumers. So the competition with the imported second-hand is quite severe. And when these companies came to Ghana, actually the Ghanaian government assured them that they would restrict import of second-handed automobile. But and actually the legislation was drafted and it was also approved by the president, but actually the legislation never came into effect. So these are some of the challenges that these manufacturing companies are facing right now. And the third type are the young entrepreneurs. I am very astonished or surprised when I came to Ghana that there are a lot of young Japanese entrepreneurs working in Ghana. And for most of them, their motivation is that they want to do something or for the development of Ghana. So there are entrepreneurs working to enhance or to improve the access of finance to the small-scale farmers. There are also entrepreneurs who are working or actually making art from electrical waste. And from these profits, they are also bringing it back to Ghana to develop the skills of children who are living around these waste dumps. Yes, so yeah, and then I wonder why Ghana is so popular. And one big reason is, I think, it's the political stability. I think there are a lot of countries in Africa that maybe the Japanese companies or the foreign investors are interested, but if the political stability is not there, they would rather retreat. So Ghana has been experiencing more than, I think, 30 years of stability. So this is a big merit for Ghana. And then, of course, for Japanese, foreign language is a big hurdle. Even English is a big hurdle for us. So, but if it becomes like French or Spanish, then it becomes another level. So, because Ghana is an English-speaking country, that is another merit, I think. And then proximity to the large markets such as Nigeria, I think some of the advantage that Ghana has. But another point that I think we should understand is that Ghana, for Japanese, Ghana is one of the highly recognized countries in Africa. We know Ghana from the name Ghana chocolate. More than 70% of Japanese chocolate comes from Ghana. And actually there is a product called Ghana chocolate in Japan, so that all the children know about Ghana. And we also have a long history of grassroots level interactions. When I came to Ghana, I was also surprised that a lot of Ghanaians have actually had an experience to study in Japan, so they are able to speak Japanese. And also, there are a lot of Japanese students who come to Ghana to study Africa or to study Ghana as an exchange student. So this kind of, I think, grassroots level interaction brings more exposure or more interaction of Africa, Ghana, and Japan. And that is, I think, another reason that the Ghana has the third largest number of Japanese companies in Africa. Next slide, please. Some risk factors for Japanese corporations. First and foremost is the peace and stability. As I said, for Ghana, the peace issue, the security issues are relatively good. Although we are having a presidential election in December, the general perception is that although there might be governmental changes, we will still have the peaceful, I think, change. So there won't be much disruption regarding security issues. Also, there are some security issues in the northern area, especially in the border, but these are not really affecting the economy or the business side right now. So I think that's one good issue. The second is economic stability. As I think most of you know, Ghana has defaulted in 2022 and now under construction of the debt management with the support of IMF. But in recent years, Ghana has experienced like 40% of inflation, or also the depreciation of cedi versus US dollars. And these are some of the risk factors for not only Japanese corporations, but I think for international corporations working in Ghana. The second point actually is something that also Ogo-san has mentioned, but whether the Japanese corporation can find trustful partners. Sometimes the government, usually for the perception of Japanese as the government is a partner that can be trusted. But in case of Africa, sometimes there are delays in implementation of policy that they have promised, such as the one that I've mentioned in the automobile industries, or areas from the government. So a lot of companies, actually not only the international companies, but also domestic companies are facing areas from the government. So that is another risk factors. And then the third is the tax issues. A lot of tax are targeted towards imported goods. So if the companies are doing trade, these are, I think, a big burden for the business side. So these are some aspects that are risk factors that are associated with the government. For the private sector, there's a difference in the business culture, or the business standards, or ethic, or the capacity of people. So whether the Japanese companies can find trustworthy partners in both government and the private sectors, these are, I think, a big factor whether these companies can be successful in working in Africa. And then the risk mitigating approaches. So my observation of some of the risk mitigating approaches that the Japanese companies are making is first bringing on board local personnel with networks to the government. So many of the, I think business environment are also connected to policies or governmental decision making. So if you have local personnel who understands the local context and also have a network with the government, this is a big, I think, risk mitigating approach. So some companies, especially the young entrepreneurs that I have met, has bringing on board like local personnel who have networks with government as an advisor, so that they would also be supported by the government. The second, I think, risk mitigating approach is partnering with companies with experience in Africa. So this is, I think, an approach taken mainly by the traditional companies, which are like the trading companies, or like manufacturing companies. So sometimes they partner with international or local companies who have a network or has been working for a long time in Africa, so that these partner companies would how do you say navigate the local context. And then I think third risk mitigating approach is hiring third country personnel as middle management. So a lot of Japanese companies has experience in working in Asian countries. Yes, but so these Asian, I think, management, so they understand personnel, they understand the context or the culture of Japanese companies, but they also understand the context of developing countries, how people think or how people act in developing countries. So they kind of can be a bridge between the Japanese and then the local Africans. So this is another, I think, risk mitigating approaches that the Japanese companies are making currently. So yeah, these are the observations that I have made through my experience in Ghana and some other experience in Africa through JICA's activities. Yeah, so I will stop here for now.
Thank you so much, Suzuki. That is very, very informative as well, very practical. And I think by sharing what works, I think is very important, because what was done in Ghana can most certainly be replicated with the help of this knowledge dissemination. So thank you very much for that. Now, without any further ado, and I just want to remind the participants again, please do not forget to post your questions in the question function, Q&A function. This will really help us strengthen a robust discussion once the discussions are completed with the interventions. Rose, I hand over to you. Thank you very much again for joining us from Nairobi. We really value your inputs to this discussion. Thank you, and over to you, Rose. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pamela. One, for inviting me to this discussion. It's very enlightening, actually, to discuss matters to do with investment in Africa, given that that is the only way that we can grow our economies. Just to take 1 minute to introduce the KIPRA, Kenya Institute for Public Policy, Research and Analysis. It's a government think tank. It is responsible for providing government with policy advice, and we undertake research as well as capacity building. And we've been in the market for over 25 years now. And as an institute, we value a lot matters to do with private sector development. And one of the key things that we are doing at the moment is to look at the business environment for micro and small enterprises, given that they are the bedrock of industrialization in future. And we have come up with an index that one can check what is happening across the various sub-counties of the country. And this is very helpful because it's enabling us to have discussions on how you can attract the private sector, both domestic as well as international investors. Looking at the profile that the previous presenter has given, it looks like the profile for Japanese investments in Africa is almost the same. In Kenya, they are more on the automobile, and there are quite a number of changes that are happening. We have the Toyota, we have the Mitsubishi. But in addition to that, Japanese companies are also very busy with the geothermal industry in Kenya. Over 90% of the geothermal exploration is being done through that. We also have the Japanese in the services sector, including restaurants. We enjoy the cuisine of the Japanese, in this, and we have seen also the Japanese participate in some of the exhibitions. I don't know how to call them exhibitions, but they are culinary kind of a showcase of what each community can actually bring to the table. So from my comments, I want to make the following observations. One is to say that whatever the Japanese companies would face in Kenya may be very much the same thing that the local industries would be facing. And I want to start by saying that we have a kind of a very structured framework with the government on one side, with the private sector on the other, and as well as one can talk about the community level. From the government side, we have activities that are there to boost, for example, innovation, incubation. We have government agencies like the Industry Research and Development Corporation. And what this does is that it helps to incubate investors in the activities that they want to build their businesses on. And if we have, for example, the Japanese companies that are ready to work with the startups in Kenya, this would be a very good stop point where one gets the idea and as well as test the quality of what is being produced. We also have the Competition Authority of Kenya, and the Competition Authority tries to deal with ensuring that the market forces are working. There is no unfair competition among the industries or among the business people in the market. And initially, one would have thought that the Competition Authority is quiet, but we have seen recently that it actually intervenes to ensure that we don't have unfair price wars, or we don't have unfair dealings as far as the private sector activities are concerned. In terms of the quality of the products, I'm happy to see the case studies that are showing that you have coffee that is going even outside the country. We have what we call the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And the Kenya Bureau of Standards is mandated to check on the quality of the products that are produced from the chemical point of view, chemical makeup point of view, the packaging of the same. And recently, and right now, as I stand here, we are going through finalization of what we call the National Quality Policy. Just the other day, KIPRA and the others, we have shared through a validation workshop, the National Quality Policy. And this is aimed actually to ensure that as far as products are concerned, there is no, the investors actually at speed of what is required in the country. That's what I want to say about the government. But I also want to say, sorry, about the government, is that we have State Department for Economic Planning. And in most, it identifies investment opportunities across the country. And this therefore helps business people actually to strategize themselves on the sectors that they would want to get into, as well as where opportunities actually lie, not just in Nairobi, but also in the 47 counties in the country. So if one went to the website of the State Department for Economic Planning, they would actually see a report that is looking at the investment opportunities in the country. And then we also have the Kenya Investment Authority, and the Kenya Investment Authority is there to guide investors on what is required, especially for foreign investors, as they come into the country. And it also holds the responsibility to implement the investment policy for Kenya. On the private sector side, we have different organizations that help the private sector to negotiate or to come to the table with the government on various areas. For example, we have the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Kenya Private Sector Alliance is very dear also to KIPRA because at its foundation, KIPRA was actually the one that actually midwifed it. And it was a major breakthrough for Kenya in terms of having an organized forum where the private sector can network with the government. I remember at that point, there were issues of exchange rates, volatility, and the question was, when you have exporters, when you have importers going to negotiate with the government, whom should the government actually listen to? So nowadays, they are very strategic, and they are able to organize themselves effectively to engage with the government. So you'll therefore find that their memberships actually to KEPSA, and they have various sectors, which means that even when you have the Japanese companies, they need them to network with such a forum, because any issues that they will be having, they'll be able to bring them in, and they can negotiate effectively with the government. We also have the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and it does almost the same thing, bringing together the manufacturers and being able to provide that platform. And then the Chamber of Commerce, which again facilitates investors to get into the market. From the youth point of view, I would say that just like the Ninja, that is being propelled by the JICA, in Kenya we also have with the Ministry of ICT ongoing activities to build skills for the youth in the ICT sector. And as you know, Kenya has actually among the highest numbers of the ICT incubation activities, accelerator in the micro and small enterprises. And this is attracting the young people into the industry, and therefore it could be a very good platform for the JICA with its activities to penetrate to the market. Let me look at matters looking at regional and regional level. One is the ACFTA. We are all aware of the ACFTA, and Kenya is a signatory to the ACFTA, which means that when we talk about the investment competition policy, intellectual property rights, protocols that have now been finished and accepted, those are the same things that Kenya then would be taking up and mainstreaming into the country. Therefore, the expectation of an investor coming to Kenya should be just as good as looking at what is going on as far as the ACFTA is concerned. And then when we look at the aspect of infrastructure, again, I like the presentation that has been done. You can see that there are roads that are there. You can see electricity that is there. But one of the things that micro and small enterprises face in the country is the fact that they don't have very good operating areas. In the sense that many of the micro and small enterprises that deal with the same manufacturing, instead of finding them in the industrial sector, you'll find them in the commercial areas. This is almost changing in the sense that the government is setting up what we are calling the county aggregation industrial parks. And the idea is to actually encourage the micro and small enterprises to aggregate and as well as be able to get into the market. For example, that issue of coffee that is there in Rwanda is a similar element that you find in the country, that there are those small enterprises that are dealing with the coffee trade here and there. But through this industrial park, it will be very easy now to say you can grow those industries because you are providing them with the infrastructure that is necessary for them, including internet, including electricity, as well as the transport system. Now, talking about technology and what is used in micro and small enterprises, you'll notice that Kenyan firms, they tend not to invest a lot as far as technology is concerned, as far as innovation is concerned. Not sometimes because they don't want to invest, but in some situations, it's either the skill element, or in some situations, it's also the cost element that goes with the research, innovation, bringing in new products and the like. But a kind of collaboration that would be there between, for example, Kenya and Japan through its agencies. It would mean that one has an opportunity actually to work with even the existing micro and small enterprises to bring them to par as far as technology is concerned. Taking the example of the tea that is that has been produced, that has been indicated, one would ask, is there any transfer of technology with the foreign investor who comes in, or also having the products that are coming from foreign investor getting into the market? In some situations like EPZ, we have seen that those who invest in the EPZ, they have these contracts that seemingly does not allow them to bring products into the market. And the key question always is, why do you have to produce and get just the external market? But things would change if with the policies that are being proposed at the moment. The other aspect to talk about is the areas of collaboration, especially at community level. We've done some work and we have realized that even before the colonial period, we had Kenyans, Africans actually participating in trade, and they were also entrepreneurs at the same time. But with the colonization, that affected actually their entrepreneurial activities, especially on the indigenous areas that they had existed in, the beadwork, the ironworks and the like. They used to do that. So, but at the moment, in as much as there is some continuity on some of these things, what is lacking for them is the technology that can take them to the market dynamics, in the sense that you want to produce at a certain product quality level so that you can get into the international market. That's a very good area that Japanese, Kenyans could actually collaborate and be able to propel that indigenous knowledge that has already existed over time. I've seen the karate, the same thing. We would also want to see that cultural element also growing by having an interest also on those areas that traditionally Kenyans also have been working on. And in terms of policy issues, I would say that as a country, macroeconomic stability, yes, we really maintain our macroeconomic stability. Of course, when you have very heavy shocks like the pandemic shock, like climate change shocks that we've been having, for example, since 2021, 22, 23, then you find a situation where either the exchange rate is actually being affected, but also being affected because of the debt kind of issues. But all in all, you'll find that Kenya has a very stable macroeconomic situation. Yes, at the moment, the debt, it's something that we are watching, but that has not distorted the fact that macroeconomic stability is being maintained. So in looking forward, as far as how we then engage in terms of risk mitigations as one comes to the country, I would say that one is identifying the networks on the ground. I've just said that we have KEPSA, we have CAM, we have other private organizations that can help an investor come to the country and be able to settle and be able to understand where are the issues, where is the discussion about those issues with the government. Secondly is also networking with the government agencies that have been given the responsibility to promote investments in the country, and also to oversee the foreign investors' interests are taken into account. So these kind of agencies, they are very good in terms of source of information for foreign investors, and it will be able to give you an indication on what is required even in looking for work permit, what is required even in terms of the taxation demands that one would need to face. More importantly for me is the issue of readiness to transfer technology. There's always this belief that when you have foreign direct investment, then the next thing that one would see is also transfer of technology, because it is in the transfer of technology that you can grow your business as far as also grow the business of the domestic participants. So subcontracting has been a very good idea, subcontracting the locals so that you keep into that relationship. But also employment. I've had the previous speaker talking about employment, hiring at the middle management level. And Kenya has a very good, high-rated human capital in the region, which means that most of the skills that you'd be looking for, you can actually find them in the country. And then also to say that we have various exhibitions that come up. We have, for example, agriculture show activities. We also have exhibitions for different sectors, whether it is ICT, whether it is housing, and these are very good forums where investors are able to learn from each other, as well as to exchange views and to see how they can network and the market in the country better. And then finally, I also want to say that involvement of the youth is crucial. We have seen that youth unemployment in the region is very, very high. So as a company coming to the region, should also take into consideration that absorption of local young people for employment creation, for incubation, and the like, would help a lot in strengthening the stability of the country, as well as creating the market. Because if the youth are not able to earn, it means that the profitability that one will be looking for may not be there, because the demand itself is not growing. So in that regard, taking into consideration, youth becomes very crucial in our area. I think at the continental level, I'm very sure that there are various initiatives that are going on. For example, to see to it that one, we have traction for investment. We have the AU with, for example, the digital transformation technology strategy, which all of us are willing to work with. We have also an effort to establish the Africa Credit Rating Agency, which means that this would give the continent an alternative that would have an impact on the risk premium that companies coming to the region would face. And then finally, the World Bank, I know that the ease of doing business had been stopped at some point, but now they have come back with the Business Ready Index. It will be launched on 3rd of October. And in my country, what we had done is that we would take the results that are coming from the Doing Business Index, and under the Deputy President office, we had a desk, and that desk would meet with key stakeholders, and then they would look at that index to ask, which are these areas that we need actually to improve so that we can bring in investment. So I'm happy to see that this is coming back, because it allows us to look at a country from that international angle. And AUDA-NEPAD could take up this challenge to see how the results from such a report can be utilized in the debate when the AU leaders are meeting, to see that we all move together to make Africa a very different place for us to live. So thank you very much.
Rose, thank you very, very much. I think that was really very valuable information. A lot of companies in Japan have their risk perception, but you have also clarified that there are a lot of work, particularly being done in Nigeria, in Nairobi, that shows ways on how government is making measures for growth. And normally we talk about the governance constraints, but I think that in Kenya, in Nairobi, the policies are being aligned to even the African Union, policies that we have for the continent. The fact that you have positive insights on the quality, focusing on the quality of production that leaves the country, also alludes to the fact that you see the importance of aligning it with export quality, which is good. And you touched on areas that Kenya is addressing in terms of making the environment conducive, alluding to the macroeconomic system, so that you can create not only business for now, but business that is sustainable and conducive in the future, as well as you touched on the technology and the youth perspective, which is often some of the constraints and challenges private sector talks about. But I'm really, really happy to hear, and we've certainly learned a lot from your presentation. So thank you very much, Rose Ndungi, for that intervention. Without any delay, I would now like to move on to the second key aspect of this webinar, and that is the Q&A session. And I would like to hand over now to Mr. Homer Toro, who is the Senior Advisor to the Chief Executive Officer at AUDA-NEPAD, in his capacity as Senior Advisor on Private Sector Development in JICA. So thank you so much, Mr. Homer-san, for joining us, and wonderful picture of the jacaranda trees in Pretoria behind you. So thank you and welcome to the platform. Thank you. Over to you.
Wait. Now, I'm currently in AUDA-NEPAD office. It's located in Midrand and near Johannesburg. Yes, we hope with South Africa will have this kind of beautiful jacaranda in the month to come. And yes, as mentioned by Pamela, so I'm serving as a Senior Advisor to the CEO in AUDA-NEPAD. I have another chapeau that is the Senior Advisor on Private Sector Development in JICA. So in the last 2 decades, I have been working on the Africa business, including the FDI. And so among this, as Pamela mentioned, so we have the AUDA-NEPAD and JICA as a long-term collaborations. And we have 5 collaboration areas. One of that is the research work between policy president of AUDA-NEPAD program and JICA Ogata Research Institute. And this is one of the webinar, a series of webinars. We have had the series of webinars, especially around industrialization of business, these areas. In the last webinar we had in January on the technical education. So now FDI, so from Japan. Japan is one of the biggest foreign investor in the world. In the past, for example, in 2019-20, according to UNCTAD, Japan was the #1 FDI investors, but it's not really reach to Africa that much, according to in compare with the potentials. So today's presentator Ogo-san has beautifully presented in a very practical manner about the risks and perceptions. But on the other hand, the tips, what can be done in my approaches. And they're followed by Suzuki-san in Ghana and Dr. Rhodes in Kenya. And they are also presenting the very the practical, especially in the national aspects, the actual businesses, risks, and also the approaches. Thank you very much for that. So now we are very much behind, to be honest, from the program schedule. So I try to winding up. And for the first, the discussion part, I would like to ask the two discussants. Ogo-san has some the internet the challenges, and only the key questions we have set in the 3 key questions, but I'd like to concentrate on the key questions 1 and 2 combined. And that is the one is what would be the most effective collaboration with Japanese and the international public government institutes for Japanese companies to reduce the risks of extending their business in Africa. And 2, what would be the role of the government of the African countries, regional economic communities, and AUDA-NEPAD, not only national level, and the regional level, including AUDA-NEPAD. So these are the questions for 2 discussions, but I observed you have already answered these questions in some parts. So I would like to ask the 2 discussants to just supplement the comments. Sorry, we are much behind. Only 1 minute each to answer these questions. We also have the multiple questions from the floor. So thank you very much for those who are giving us the questions. So now I'd like to ask Suzuki-san to respond to key questions 1 and 2, just to supplement to what you have already presented. 1 minute, please. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, I'll try to keep it in 1 minute, hopefully. Okay, so I think what we need to do is to reduce the negative schema of Africa that is there in the Japanese companies, and also support them in how they can find trustworthy partners in Africa. I think 1 is to increase the exposure to Africa at an early stage. So what JICA is currently doing is ABE Initiative, a scholarship program which composes of master's degree and internship program in Japan. And I think these graduates of ABE Initiative can become the partners or the navigators in Africa to connect the Japanese companies and also the African local companies. And we see a lot of graduates now, and some are becoming these navigators. And I see that they are connecting the Japanese companies and local businesses. But I think we need more. So ABE Initiative is 1 thing, but we need to increase the number, I think. The second is the Japanese Private Sector Partnership Volunteer Program. We have a lot of volunteers working in not only in Ghana, but in Africa. Currently, we have 56 in Ghana, but from the establishment, we have more than 1,500 volunteers has worked in Ghana. And a lot of these volunteers want to come back to Africa and support the development of Africa. So their motivation, I think, if we are able to support their motivation to come back to Africa and start a business, I think there will be more exposure also, or more possibilities of business in Africa. And then the second part is to support Japanese companies in information gathering and networking. So we are also supporting the need confirmation or business verification or business validation of Japanese companies who want to come to Africa, but they still don't know, or they don't have enough information to see whether their business works in Africa. So we are supporting that. And I think through those schemes, there are some businesses that are currently expanding in Africa. And then the third is, of course, not only JICA, but JETRO is also working in Africa. There are 9 offices in Africa who are providing information of African business environment to Japanese companies. So, of course, their work is also essential. And then I would also suggest that we should increase investment opportunities in areas where special attention is needed, especially in the health sector or food security sector or climate change sector. And we want, I think, more startups or young entrepreneurs from both Japan and from Africa. And I think if we are able to support that sector, I think there will be more opportunities for both the Japan and African entrepreneurs to be in that area. And then the fourth is to support Japanese companies in negotiating with the government. A lot of Japanese companies, as I said, has a lot of challenges with the government. So I think before, Japanese government, including JICA, was a bit, was trying to take distance in business, supporting business. But I think as a government, as a Japan as a whole, we should also support these Japanese companies who are struggling in Africa and negotiating with the government so that they would also be sustainable in African context. So that is my answer to the key question number 1. Over to you, Homa-san. Or should I also answer key question number 2?
If you can respond to the question number 2.
Okay. Thank you. So my response to question number 2 is, I think, quite basic. But of course, first, peace and stability is needed. Second, I think this is not only for each nation, but as AUDA-NEPAD and also the REX can help, but standardizing and digitalizing the procedure of doing business in Africa and investment promotion, because I hear a lot of claims from the companies that the procedure is different in each country, and when they want to expand to other countries, they need to go through the procedure all over again. But if this standardization can be occurred and through digitalization, I think this process will be much easier for all the foreign investors to understand and to go through. So that's another thing. And of course, promoting business-friendly and fair environment, and mobilizing funds and investment in infrastructure development. Infrastructure is still there's a lot of challenge here. Roads, ports, railways, energy. Yeah, these are areas that we still need investment in. So mobilizing fund is needed. And then the most important part is the investment in human capital. I think quality of education. I hear a lot of companies claiming that, especially in the mathematics and science area, and also non-cognitive skills. A lot of, I think, in education, non-cognitive skills are not recognized or not put in priority, but actually these skills like perseverance or discipline or teamwork or leadership, these are actually important skills that are needed in I think in work environment. And then, of course, employability skills, business management ethics. and also supporting local MSMEs will also contribute to developing candidates of partners who will be partners with international companies. So to support them, I think access to finance and also business management skills, as I said, Kaizen is an approach, not only a business management skill, but it also develop the skills of its employees. So I think this is a very good skill, management skill, that you don't need much budget. You can start from what you have. So these are some areas that I think it's very basic, but what the African government should be focusing on. Thank you.
Public sector or regional institute can support the businesses. Yes, so now I'd like to take the questions from the floor. So actually, we have several questions. So I see that Dr. Rhodes is not on. So I take up one question, which perhaps again to Suzuki-san is the right person to respond. I have got the questions from the colleagues from Madagascar. So she has raised several questions, and one of them, I just read, from my experience, most of the Japanese companies start business upon strong trust and a long-term relationship. If we don't have any connection with Japanese first, it is very hard to start or find business opportunities. Do you have any recommendation advices for finding Japanese-African network and building connections? I think from your previous answers, I can answer these questions, but so any reflections to this, Suzuki-san, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So in addition to, I think, developing more navigators through like other initiative programs, I think we could, I think, also utilize the companies that are already here in Africa. So as I said, in Ghana, we have the third largest number of companies in the trading, especially the trading companies of from Japan. They have vast network and they have been working in Africa for a long time. So actually they have a lot of experience. So I think through connecting new businesses with them can also, maybe it's not a business with them directly, but through them they also have networks, so they can also provide you with information that maybe can support the new business comers. I think these are hubs. When I call hubs, I think it is Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. These countries can be hubs where Japanese companies are already located. And if Japanese companies, the new Japanese companies can come here and network with them, I think they would have more information of the local context. So yeah, that's my reflection.
I'll come back because and there are some questions to her, but unfortunately I cannot see. Then so, Pamela, are you available? If available, so the some questions asks the African's view. The one question is the how do the African markets find the value of Japanese companies compared to Chinese or European ones? So there is one question. If you have any reflections to this, could you respond to that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olsen. I'll try my best. I think in a lot of the cases, it's about leveraging on our strengths. Japanese markets bring a particular strength to Africa. Trying to undo what China has done in Africa or replicate that is not the ultimate goal, but to have a unique approach. I've been looking through the questions, and overall, I think to answer this one specifically, the price-sensitive market in which China operates in is particularly important because we are talking about quality also versus quantity. And I think Japanese companies should not compromise on quality when it comes to investing in the continent. I think Africa, as much as we are making our environment and ecosystems conducive for business, we must not. We must also be particular, as Rose says, with the quality of production that we manufacture, and most importantly, also finding the skills to do the specific work. Often, Chinese companies come with their own skill set, and I think it's important. And Japan has demonstrated many times of the skills transfer that they have successfully done. We've seen the work that JICA has done in ASEAN countries, for example, with industrial parks, which I had the opportunity of going through because of Mr. Homersan's intervention. And I think that the similar approach can be replicated in the African continent, provided that exchanges and policies are upgraded in Africa to make it conducive for Japanese and foreign investors at large to bring large-scale manufacturing into the continent. So I think more importantly, the highest cost also of securing capital and moving these enterprises around within the continent is very important. And the three most important aspects of doing business in Africa is leadership, conducive leadership, the infrastructure, and the marketing. And there was a question on how can AUDA-NEPAD help, as well as JICA. And the answer to that is, I think because of our governance structure, our direct line with member states, if there's an opportunity to do business, we welcome the discussion and we can facilitate this. NEPAD is 2 decades old now, working in the continent, and we are aligned with our officials and government in our member states, so we can of course connect you to the right people to prevent people having risk to say that they are the ones to do business, but we are connected to the right governance structure and will be able to align the work. There was a question from the lady in Madagascar. She wanted to know, I think, who can be reached in Japan, and I think JETRO is a very, very good platform also to contact in Japan, because they are a network of private companies. And also we can learn a lot from the Japanese small, medium enterprises, which forms 80% of Africa's investment market as well. So that is some of the lessons that we can leverage from that. Over to you, Mr. Homersan. I hope that helped some of the questions.
So you have beautifully elaborated responses. Thank you very much. And finally, so we are already much beyond the proposed closing time. So finally, I'd like to call, if possible, Ogo-san to respond to give your final words. The Chiaki-san, so would you be able to communicate with her and call right now?
Honma-san, I can hear you a little bit. No.
Okay, great. So, yes, this is the final. So maybe you have a lot of things which you'd like to respond. So just give us your final words.
I prepare for that answer that key questions on the floor attendees. So I heard some times the Japanese companies are not able to decide business judgment so quickly, too late. So yes, I agree to it. And answer to this reasons. And I focus on decision-making structure. This left side is Japanese structure, and right side is that the African countries. So it takes a long time to decide anything. So because Japanese companies don't have enough information, as I said, of Africa, and they need to more time to judge business in Africa. So next slide, please. So image is this one. not good communication inside of the company. So next slide, please. So my advice in this point is that first, African companies continue to give reliable information constantly. The Japanese companies can decide a little bit smoothly. Next, please. And second, local institutions. Next, please. Local institutions can also contribute on making relationship up to the right side. For example, local institutions can support companies in their countries to certify their reliability, existence, and their business. This might be help to Japanese companies to understand African companies. Next, please. Another example, local institutions can communicate with Japanese companies directly. These institutions can certify companies in their countries and give critical information in their countries which Japanese companies want to understand. Last slide, next please. Third, Japanese and African institutions like JICA and NEPAD or others also support to collect and give reliable information. I think JICA and NEPAD have much experience and information and issue some kinds of the readers, the certification sometimes. So you can also contribute much more at this point. I think this is the answer for this key question and to the floor attendees questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we are answering with the diagram, so which illustrated your answers clearly. And now, and thank you very much for a lot of questions. So, and at the same time, apologies for not being able to answer within the time, and we are much beyond the closing time, and sorry for that, the time management as well. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, to participate. Now, we'd like to wrap up today's seminar. So we ask all the speakers today, please turn on your camera once again. So if possible, Heki-san and Uo-san also, now if you are available. Oh, now, okay. Yes, that's good. So this is the first appearance in terms of the visual images. Okay, yes. And also the reason who is the hosting this event. Thank you very much. So now I hand over for the final, the closing remarks to the Pamela. Floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Homer-san. Thank you very much to the entire JICA team that has put this session together, along with the African Union Policy Bridge Tank Program. We really value your interest in this topic, and the time over is because of the important discussion and importance in value sharing on the information that we have been hearing throughout this webinar. So I really, really wish to thank everyone that's joining. It only shows that we need to have more of these webinars, and that's the reason why the African Union Policy Bridge Tank exists, and that's why we partner with the JICA Ogata Research Institute so that we can share this information from the ground all the way up to, as a bottom up as well as a top down approach in how we can shape and inform policies for more conducive investment in Africa and doing business in Africa. More importantly, and the next time I would employ that we address key issues. We have substantive value chain challenges in terms of electricity, where there's not much energy supply in the continent, and that is one of the hurdles to do business in Africa. Apart from the some of the governance issues, some of the aspects of not reaching out to the correct counterparts in doing business. But all in all, in the challenges that we've had, most importantly, as the takeaway of the session, we know that talent and the transfer of skills is important. Maintaining high quality is also important. And the fact that we know that Japanese companies are ready to do business in the African continent. So with platforms like TICAD, we continue to persevere, and we make this a part two possibly, so that we can address some of this. With that, I would really like to thank you all for joining us again until we do meet and have these interesting conversations the next time. So thank you again, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful afternoon in Japan, and wherever you are in the rest of the world, a good day, and stay tuned with the work that is being done with JICA Ogata Research Institute and the AUDA-NEPAD Policy Bridge Tank. Thank you very much to all who joined again.